Okay, then I'll start recording. So the idea of today's meeting is to continue with working with our packages. Whether you want to build your own packages or you want to contribute to someone else's packages, it is important to know, what's the structure, what tools are at your disposal, so that you can, build package or contribute to packages efficiently. So today we're going to be focusing on data. So the meetup of today is associated to issue number 24 of the Data Science Incubator. And it is based on the book chapter External Data from the book R Packages. So basically, I'll be trying to cover these 3 dot points, which the chapter expands on, but mostly I'm going to be covering the first one, which is, how to, make data sets available to the users of the package. There are other ways in which you may want to include data in a package that is not directly to be used by users. So for example, if your functions in a package need data, but the data doesn't need to be exposed to users, you would put the data somewhere else, and that's item number 2. Or if you want to share like the raw state of a data set, like a CSV file or an Excel file, that goes somewhere else as well. But given that we have a short time for these sessions, I'm going to be focusing on the main place where we work with data. And if there is any time, we can discuss the other uses, but they are a bit more rare. So I think with the first dot point, we are kind of good to go. So what I've done is basically extracted the most relevant information from that book chapter and made like a little example for each of the different kinds of data usages that you might be interested. So even if we can't cover everything today, this chapter, the chapter in the Data Science Incubator website associated with today's video should have some like a digest of the book chapter. And if you're interested in learning more, of course, you go to the book chapter and read it all. So to begin with, I'm going to be working here on RStudio Cloud in our Data Science Incubator workspace, simply because there we have all the kind of developer tools available to us. So for example, if I do here on the console, if I do library, the tools, that should be available, right? So if you don't have the tools in your computer, you can either install it or come here to the Data Science Incubator workspace, where all tools will be available to you. So today, then I want to interrupt.
Claire's trying to join. Is there a link that I can send quickly?
Yeah. Okay, I don't see her trying to come here. So I think that the link would be the one here. Yeah. Yes, this one. So I'm gonna pop it on the chat if I can find it. Here, chat. Yep, and paste to everyone. So if you can share that link with her, it is also in the calendar of the day. So in the meantime, I'm gonna clean the project I'm working on to kind of the bare bones to show first of all, one check that, if you're contributing to a package, so for now, forget about this file here. If you're contributing to a package, one of the first things you could do, once you get the source of that package, is to run some checks to make sure, to know what's the beginning state of that package. So you can go to the build tab and run a check and see what output you get. So if something is broken in the package, then you already know you're starting from a broken package. And if nothing is broken, then anything that is broken by you need, you should be trying to kind of fix it before you make your submission. So for example, right now I ran the checks and I noticed that there is one warning. It's about a license. that is missing, a license file. So, it's not related to this particular topic, but I could use the function from use this. I could use license, say maybe MIT license, and that should be good to go. Okay, so say that we are now we decided we are ready to actually the license needs a name, like my name here, Mauro. So, and now I can run the checks. Okay, so say that I want to share with the users the first few rows of the dataset empty cars, right? We are familiar with the empty cars dataset, but we want to share a short version of that, and we decide to call it mini empty cars. You could be tempted to say create a folder, create called data, and inside there, so this line here, number 2, what it did, it created this folder here, data. So maybe in that folder, then you want to put the dataset that you just created. So you could use the reader function write CSV to place a CSV file inside data. So if we now go to the folder data, you see that the CSV file is there. And in a normal kind of script style of development, you could you could ask your users to access the data from there with something like read CSV and the name of the path where the data is. But that's something that you don't do in an R package. In an R package, the datasets go to the folder data, but in a different way. So right now, after I added the license before, the checks are all good to go. I'm going to run the checks again. And now after adding the folder data and see what happens. Okay, I get a warning now that I have added the folder data and added a file there. And let's see what that is. It is saying that, okay, there is a file, undocumented object called empty cars. Okay, so the package is now realizing that we have added some data. It is kind of nudging us to add some documentation to it. So there's a few things we need to do. So how do we go about that? Okay, the first thing we need to know is that usually these lines that we did here, the first 3 lines, that are dealing with getting the data from the ultimate source and preparing it, should be recorded somewhere in the package. And where you can do that, okay, you could do that in a data folder called data raw. So you could create it manually, but I strongly don't recommend it because there are a few other things that you need to do. So instead, what I recommend is to use a function from the use this package, use data raw. And that function, as the prompt says, not only adds the folder data raw, but also adds that folder to a file called build ignore. For the moment, it's not very important to know what that does, but like in the gist of that is that it tells the process that builds our packages to kind of ignore that folder, and the checks that you would normally do will then work as you could normally expect. So the first thing you need to do is then to add that folder via the function use data raw, and inside that folder, as a template, you get this file called dataset.r. In reality, you should change its name to the name of your dataset. So my dataset is called mini empty cars. So I would change the name to that. And now here, I would paste the code that I need to get the data from the source and to prepare it. Here I would say, what's the source? If you got it from some website, you would say, in this case, I got it, source is the dataset empty cars. So there is a package in R called datasets, and it contains the data empty cars. So to demonstrate that, I'm going to paste it here on the console. So if you want to know more about that dataset, you can do question mark empty cars, datasets empty cars, and you would have all the information about that dataset. So, okay, so this code stays in the package. It's just not kind of obvious. It's not facing the user. It's just facing the developers. But the developers should be able to know, whoever maintains this package, where this dataset came from. This line doesn't go now. We have to remove it because we are not going to store in data that way. Actually, what I'm going to do right now to avoid confusion is to go to the data folder and remove the file that I created when I was pretending that this was a script, but it's not, it's a package. So now the data folder is completely empty, and I could even remove it, actually. Let's remove it just to show what's going to happen in just a moment. So this line is also not needed because we got the data from the dataset, from the package dataset. So we already have the data here, empty cars. And now the next thing we need to do is to pass that dataset that we just created, the mini dataset, here. Notice how the name of the file matches the name of the dataset that we created and that we are going to export. Exports means that this dataset is going to go, it's going to face the user. So now I'm going to run line 3 interactively. And what it's doing is creating the folder data that I had removed to kind of show exactly this. And it's saving an object called empty cars inside the folder data, and it's already compressing it in the R specific format, RDF. And that's, we are getting close to the end of this presentation, so I'm going to try to speed up a little bit. So what I'm doing now is loading the package by doing DevTools load all. That's something that we saw the other time, the previous time, I think. So that means that our dataset mini empty cars should be available for usage. Just to show again what I've just done, I'm going to restart the session. So now with the session restarted, if I call the name mini empty cars, I should not get it. I should get an error because the package, the object is not loaded in my session. So how would I load it? Okay, with Shift Control L or by running DevTools load all. There, every object in my package is now available for me to use, including the object mini empty car. So now it is available. So in a package, when we want to use the objects that live inside that package, we use DevTools load all. That's before we export the data. But how before we install the package. But once the package is installed, and you can install the package clicking here and install and restart, what that will do is it will transform that source code that we are working with as developers. It will install it in our system. So in a different folder, in a kind of compressed format, somewhere else, that package will be stored. So that now, the users of your package, maybe yourself or someone else, can simply call library and the name of your package, and then the package itself should contain the object that you have just exported, as you can see now. Now the package demo contains the object mini empty cars. So you could use it here in, it could be the data object for any of your functions, okay? So the one thing that I want to kind of show before I open it for questions is the next step. So the next step is to document that data set. And where would you document that data set? Okay, so you document in the folder R. So you can use the function use R with the name of your data set to create an R file inside the R folder that is called exactly as your data set. And right there, what you could do is quotes and the name of your data set, because, sorry, that is the object that you want to document. And the minimum piece of information that you could say, you need to say in Roxygen comments. So this, pound sign and the tilde is a Roxygen comment. You have to write a little title, something like a copy of first few rows of the empty cars dataset. And maybe you would like to use some of the tags that Roxygen provide to document things, including, for example, the source tag, where you would say from datasets, empty cars. If you use square brackets, that will be transformed into a link so that the person who reads your documentation will click there and will be sent to that documentation. So I'm going to now click here. First, I'm going to document. So with the function DevTools document, and click here in install and restart. So after I do that, I can use the function, and loading the package, I could use the function ? And the name of our dataset. And we should now get access to the documentation that we have just written. Okay, that is the minimum that you need to know about how to work with data and how to add a new data set to a package. And then it's gonna be up to the maintainer to maybe ask you to give a little bit more information, documentation, or do little things. But with this is the minimum that you should know to hopefully to pass the check. So if there is any warning, okay, so here we have a little warning that has nothing to do with our data set. So what we have done with mini empty cars is package compliant. Okay, it was a lot, it was fast, I apologize for that, but this is like crucial because everything else we do with in a package, specifically in our organization, relies strongly on data. So it's crucial to know how to deal with it. Okay, what questions do we have?
Just to clarify, this is just for use with packages. Because I mean, this looks like a cool thing that I could implement in my code that is not a package that is meant to be going in the direction of being a package, but is not a package yet.
Yeah.
But that would have to not happen at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, one really good use of packages is to package data. So we face that problem of trying to access data sets that live in my computer, and then I want to share with someone else, or I go to another computer. How do I get the data set that I want? So one option, particularly if data sets aren't huge, is to create a package that only contains data. So already, DevTools provides you with tools that once I know this is kind of a little difficult to digest at first, but once you become familiar with it, and the book, our packages explains all that I have just said, it's fairly easy to create a little package for yourself, like your personal package that contains just data sets, and you can just, do library and the name of the package that you just created, and you will have available all the data sets that you want, including the documentation, which is great because you kind of know what's what.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Any other question? No questions? Cool. And people have been using data in contributions to packages that I manage. So, that's great. Hopefully this will kind of make it transparent what happens under the hoods in the process of building the package. So you may have to just send data, and then, you see that the data becomes part of the package without, knowing the details of how it works. But maybe for you, as a contributor, what it could be important to know is that now the package contains that mini empty cars dataset. So you may create a new function called f, and maybe that function needs that dataset inside. So you can just call it without doing anything. You don't need to use load. You don't need to use read. You don't need to do anything because the function is already. Sorry, the data set is already inside your package, so it's available. This object now lives in the package. If you want to be explicit, you could do something like demo, right? So, this could be, you could call this data and then do, dplyr filter data where seal is something like this, And your function f should do something, should filter, rows where c is less than 3. Obviously, there's nothing. There you go. So, I just created a function that uses my data set, And I haven't used, load. I haven't used anything, any function to read it, because the package already has that object available. It kind of lives as if it were a global variable inside the package. It's not exposed to the user only via the colon notation, because it's inside the namespace of the package. Is that clear? Any questions about that? Because I have seen uses of load or things like that. Is anything else that I could clarify about that? No. No? Cool. Great. Okay, then I think we can wrap it up. The other cases that I kind of mentioned are way more rare, so it's not crucial for you to know, how to, do that. If you're interested, here you have the information, and also you can extend by reading the original book, the R packages. So next time, I think we're going to be talking about functions and testing. So okay, if there's no more questions, then I'll call it done and see you next time.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye. That's the one.
Yeah, sounds okay.